Well, it's the end of a perfect Sunday. Has this not been just wonderful weather, folks? Upper 70s, mostly sunny skies. Here it is, 8:18 p.m. Eastern Time, and we're falling into the low 70s here at the Southern Indiana Weather Office. Here's a live look at our Southwest Skycam, and folks, this weather is just absolutely beautiful. Blessed beyond belief today, folks. Hi, meteorologist Michael Wilhite here with Southern Indiana Weather. Hope you're having a great Sunday. I want to do a little bit of a longer range type of an update tonight, folks. And so I'll dive right into the data. Today's video update is sponsored by Metal Magic in Washington. You can give Chad a call at 698-8555 for all of your paintless dent repair needs. They do a fantastic job, folks, located across from the Radio Shack there in Washington. They're PDR Nation certified, and that means, folks, that you know you're going to get the job done right when you take it to them. So for all of your traveling hail team needs, check them out. Call Chad and tell him Southern Indiana Weather sent you. May end up needing them, folks. We've got a chance for severe weather coming up on Wednesday. Let's go ahead and dive into that detail. Storm Prediction Center has already issued a 30% risk to our north. Let me go ahead and put on the cities here, and you can kind of see it includes just to the south of the Indianapolis area and basically northward in the state. Now, this far out, they only issue upper end slight risks on their day 4 through 8 outlook. Tomorrow, it will be a day 3 outlook because this is for Wednesday. So on day 3, they do issue 15% risks, and so that will likely include us. If I were a betting man right now, from the way things look, to me, I would probably issue the slight risk to be something more like this, the low end slight, which would pretty much encompass most, well, all of the rest of the state in a good portion of the area. We'll see how they end up drawing that tomorrow. Certainly nothing is set in stone with that yet, but do be aware that it is there, folks. And really, this is all going to be on Wednesday because of a pretty powerful cold front that is moving into the area. Here it is. Well, this is by Wednesday morning, very early in the morning. You can see you've got a very powerful low pressure moving up. You've got another one moving down. Warm fronts to our north. We're firmly into the mid-80s. By the time Thursday rolls around, that cold front is already pushed through, and it is going to lead to some big changes later in the week. That cold front is going to push through as we continue on through the week. High pressure is going to be large and in charge, setting up shop. In fact, by the weekend, we're talking extremely cool temperatures, unseasonably cool temperatures, only for highs in the mid-60s, low 40s, possibly even upper 30s in parts of the state. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. It will bring a chance for some severe weather with it, and here's what the latest future radar looks like. Now, at this point right now, we don't have a whole lot of future radars that we can look at because we're still looking at Wednesday, which is a pretty good deal of ways off for a future radar to look out, really. The NAM only sees out to 84 hours, and it's the only model that we've got this far out that has a radar with it. The high resolution NAM only sees out to 60 hours, so it doesn't even see this storm yet. So over the coming couple of days, we'll be able to fine-tune these details a little bit more. But as you can see right now, it looks like a line is going to set up to our north. And let me sort of put these few hours into motion for you, and you can see it moves basically into Ohio into the early morning hours. And really, that's where that 30% upper end slide is. Probably more justified for that. But you can see it does eventually slide its way south, and by 6Z, which would be 2 a.m. our time, you can see the line is sliding more to our south, but kind of breaking up. So we'll have to see about that, whether, you know, is it going to end up breaking up, or will it end up holding up some steam as it rolls through? You know, there's a lot of questions right now, and at 2 a.m. in the morning, certainly a line is usually a lot weaker. So if it does come through for us, it will likely come through in a fairly weakened state is the thinking at this point, but it's something that we're just going to have to see. And we've seen a lot of severe weather events like this, but folks, we've seen severe weather events in the past that have been potent at 2 a.m. So we'll keep an eye on it over the coming days and see what comes up with this. Right now, CAPE is just very much in question. CAPE's a measure of instability, convective available potential energy. And by midday, it looks like, yes, we've got some decent amount of CAPE to work with, but then by the time we get into the overnight hours, you can see, well, I mean, the sun's been set for several hours, and it's just dying away, and the only amount of instability we've got is pretty much right along that line pushing through. That means it would be pushing into an unfavorable environment for severe development. So we'll keep an eye on that. Again, lots can change. Timing could even speed up over the coming days or slow down further. That is all possible. So really, I think by Tuesday we'll be able to fine-tune it a little bit more. Just know that Wednesday night late there is a chance that we could end up with some severe weather, and we'll call it at that. That's about all that we know at this point. Can tell you this, we got a nice low-level jet with this. That's something that we haven't seen around here in a long time. It's a little bit hard to see this, so let me zoom in on the browser here just a little bit for you, because I think that would certainly help you out here, and I apologize for I should have done this earlier. But you can see here we are in Indiana right here, and let me put this on here where I can draw it for you. But here we are in the state of Indiana right about here, okay? That's terrible representation of Indiana, but you get the point. Look at this. We've got about a 30 to 40 knot low-level jet over us. Folks, that is more than enough to be conducive to severe weather. So certainly that is something that we are going to have to keep an eye on. This does not mean that we will have severe weather, but the parameters are in place. So instability and timing on this is certainly going to be the biggest questions at this point right now, and we will go from there, but we'll keep you up to date and informed as time goes by. Now, behind this system, we are talking about a big time cool down. In fact, this could be really classified as an Arctic air intrusion coming up. We've got a big dip in the jet stream that's going to accompany this cold front that passes us. As you can see, we get up into the low to mid 80s. 85 is the highest the GFS ensembles bring us to. But then after that, just look at this. Only 60s for a high temperature on Friday and Saturday. Upper to mid 40s for low temperatures, and that's one model's idea. How cold is it going to get? Wow, let me show you this. Take a look at what the Canadian model says for next Saturday morning. 42 here at the Huntingburg Airport, 39 down here at the Evansville Airport, 38 up here, 39, 38 right around the Indianapolis area, 38 Terre Haute, 40 up in Columbus, 44 in Bloomington. You get the picture. If the Canadian is right, certainly some of us will be in frost territory, especially up here in northeastern Indiana. Anytime you get to about 36 to 38 degrees, you're starting to get in the danger zone where you could potentially have a little bit of frost in the low-lying areas with that. So certainly parts of Indiana could end up seeing their first frost with this if the Canadian verifies. Now, it keeps it another day around. By Sunday morning, pretty much just about as cool. Moderated by 2 or 3 degrees, but not much. It's going to be 2 very cold mornings. I want to point this out to you, though, that this data right now is very much in question still. If we take a look at what the Euro model says about it, it only takes us down to 56 for a low. Now, I should warn you, the Euro has a warm temperature bias on their low temperatures and on their high temperatures. It just has a temperature bias that's usually a little bit warmer than what it really ends up being, so we take that with a grain of salt. But even with a bit of a warm temperature bias, certainly low 50s would be more of a prediction for what the European, and then pretty much the same for Sunday. You can see it only takes it down to 50s, which would say mid 40s could be in territory potentially for that Sunday. So certainly not frost weather if you believe the European, but it's not the only model out there. We've shown you the Canadian. I just showed you the European. Let's take a look at the GFS. I don't have a nice zoomed in view on Indiana like I do the other ones, but I can show you this. The GFS is thinking low 50s and to mid 40s around the area, but certainly portions of northern Indiana would be firmly in the frost territory. Take a look at Sunday morning. You can see a little bit of frost territory potentially up here, but certainly not for any of us in southern Indiana. So it's a battle zone right now. And right now the big three are going to work this out, and hopefully over the coming days we'll be able to narrow this down a little bit further. But just understand that it's going to be stinking cold next weekend. And with high temperatures only into the 60s, yeah. Now, let's talk about what we can expect for this fall a little bit as well. All right. Think about what we did last year, and it would probably help if I pulled this up. Have we seen our last 90-degree day? All right, here is the data from September 2013. Historical average highs and what we actually saw. Just put into a calendar format to make it easy. All right, what you can see here is the last 90-degree day of the year that we saw was September 11th. Now, we saw our last 90-degree day probably on Friday. Does that mean that we're going to have any 90-degree days the rest of the year? I wouldn't rule it out, but I don't think it's likely at this point. I think the 90s are probably going to be gone for the rest of the year, if you want my opinion. Now, I may eat my words, and that's fine if I end up doing it, but I don't think we see a string of this again. We saw a couple of weeks of very hot weather, and that was certainly a fluke. But if any, think about it this way: we are on pretty much the same pattern that we have been really since September, October last year when the big time cool down began. And when it began, folks, it began. Because take a look at this. We went on, this is September 2013. We went from a high of 90 on the 11th down to 81 on the 12th. Boom, it dropped to 71 like that for the 13th. And then take a look at this. The highest it got up the rest of the month was only 84. All right, let's go back and take a look at what the GFS ensembles are saying. Do you see a strikingly similar picture here? We ended up with a 90-degree day, and then boom, the cold snap came. We warmed up very briefly, maybe to the low to mid 80s, and then boom, just like that, we snapped down into 60s and 70s. Folks, that's pretty much what we saw last year happen. We didn't see 60s quite in September. Well, actually we did. On the 29th we did, and it had a little bit of a warm up, and then boom, a big time cool down. But take a look at what happened into October as we go out from there, and you can see very clearly you saw this just continued cool weather, and whenever the cool weather stuck, boom, it came, and it came with a vengeance. And if I pulled up November and December, you'd see a very similar thing. So all this to say, what can we expect? Well, we're under a very similar regime, pretty much the same regime that we weather-wise that we have seen for the past almost a year now. This pattern began in September, October, right around in there, 2013, and it's hung on with the exception of really just a couple of week or two warm snaps that we saw one back in June, and then we saw this one in August, and ended last week, and those are really the only two warm snaps that we've seen. Folks, if this pattern continues on, we're headed for a cold winter. That's the bottom line. We're headed for a cool fall. Just based on knowing the pattern, I think it's going to happen. And we take a look at what happened last year, and we see now the ensembles are pointing up to pretty much the same type of a pattern again, setting up again. So we'll keep an eye on that. What does that mean for us? Well, prepare for a cool fall again, It's time to start breaking out those cooler clothes and things, because it's going to be coming very soon. Now, the good news is I think that we do have a little bit of warmer weather left, but certainly this picture of this coming weekend where we're going to be into the 60s for a high and into the 40s for a low, you're going to start to see that happen more and more. Our average first frost date, and by the way, here for southern Indiana is around mid-October. Now, here's the other thing that we interestingly know. We are about a month behind northern Indiana. Typically, when northern Indiana sees their very first frost, you can figure within a month southern Indiana is going to see our first frost. So if northern Indiana ends up seeing their first frost this weekend, that gives you an idea that we've got a month or less probably until some of that frosty weather starts to hit down here. So it's going to get chilly pretty quickly by the time the 1st of October rolls around. And just start preparing now, folks. The cooler weather is on the way. Now, I for one, like the cooler weather, so if you don't, I apologize, but it is coming, folks, and this weekend is going to be a nice foretaste of it. After the weekend comes, you see that we rebound a little bit, but only the highest temperature we see is really up to only 77 degrees after that. So it is certainly probably a game changer, and fall is going to be in full force the way things look. That's sort of what we can expect this fall. And what can we expect this winter? How snowy will it be? That's still in question yet. I do plan to issue my own winter forecast, but I'm not going to do that probably until late October, very early November. I don't care about being first. I care about being accurate, and I want to be the most accurate that I possibly can. So I'm waiting around, but I can tell you right now it does look cold and snowy again unless something changes. We'll wait. Hopefully by the end of October we'll have better data to work with to narrow that down a little bit more. But start stocking up on the firewood and other things, folks, because it just looks like it's going to be a nice cool fall, and that probably is going to last into the winter the way things are taking a look right now. All right, let's go check out your forecast, folks. We can go here to southernindianaweather.com. Don't forget to check out our newly redesigned website, folks. It's got a lot of great features, and it is designed with you in mind. It's 10-day forecast sponsored by the Smile Center in Huntingburg. Takes a look like this. Down to 55 for your low tonight. Low 80s tomorrow, 84 on Tuesday, up to a warm 86, but that's as high as it's going to get this week in advance of that cold front. Again, severe weather as possible. Still a little bit of question marks there, but we'll keep an eye on it and keep you updated as the week comes. Then after that, the cool down really comes. In fact, by the weekend, upper 60s on Friday. mid 60s on Saturday, rebounding only to the low 70s as we continue on in on the 10-day outlook. So there it is, folks, and that's what we got to deal with over the coming days. We are always looking for sponsors for our stuff, folks, so you can contact me at southerninwx@gmail.com. Secure your advertising slot today. We have a lot of great packages. Contact me for some reasonable rates. Meteorologist Michael Wilhite with your Southern Indiana weather forecast. Have a great night, folks. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.